Okay, so last night we spoke off camera about some current events in Judaism. So today I want to speak on camera about some general concepts in Judaism, specifically about the issue of kashrus oref, of stiff-neckedness. Now, there is an interesting phenomenon. By the Chet Ego, by the sin of the golden calf, the pasuk says that Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, sinned in the desert because they were kshay oref, they were stiff-necked. So, Reb Shlomo Fisher, one of the great Goyim alive in Yerushalayim today, he asks a question. He says, normally when we talk about Avodah Zarah, we speak about Avodah Zarah, we speak about people being seduced, convinced, persuaded to serve Avodah Zarah, to go out and serve idols. We don't talk about people stubbornly resisting in order to serve Avodah Zarah, because obviously we would assume that, especially in the Midbar, where they were just exposed to the revelation of Hashem, that they would have to be convinced to serve Avodah Zarah. Not that it would be a reaction to something, but it would be a drawing away from where they were. So he says a very interesting thing. And this he also wants to explain why the men served the golden calf and the women did not. It says there are two aspects in wisdom. One aspect of wisdom is knowledge, and the other is taking something to heart. Men are very good at knowledge, but they're rotten at taking things to heart. Women are not as good at knowledge. They're much better at taking things to heart. That's why we say men represent chachma, knowledge. Women represent bina, understanding. Chachma is much more intellectual, knowing facts. Bina is understanding. Taking something and understanding it requires an emotion, a sense, an intuition of what it's about. So, normally, in order to recognize Hashem, one has to come to intellectual knowledge of Hashem, because Hashem is not apparent to us. So that's why normally men have an easier time coming to emunah than women, because since the knowledge of Hashem is intellectual, the Rambam says there's such a thing as emunah's nashim, as the emunah of women, which is the Rambam's definition of belief, which is not based in reason or in logic, but is purely emotional and arbitrary. So of course women can believe in things, even though they don't have an intellectual grasp of them, but it's not a firmly based emunah, according to the Rambam's perspective at least. A firmly based emunah is based on rational evidence. So therefore men are more capable of rationally, and this is not always true, of course. You have men who are irrational, women who are rational. But in terms of the masculine and feminine in general, the masculine is associated always with more reason, and women with more emotion. So men have more capacity for reason to come to the recognition of Hashem. But it's far more difficult for them to then change their hearts and impact upon their emotional makeup through their knowledge. Women, on the other hand, might not have that much intellectual knowledge of Hashem, but they're much better at taking things to heart and living according to what they know. So we have, Moshe Rabbeinu reflects this distinction when he speaks out in, what we say in Aleinu, first paragraph, V'yadata yom, you should know today, and put it or return it to your heart. The knowledge is the intellectual knowledge. V'ashivos means to put it in your heart, to actually take it to heart. So, in the desert, says Reb Shlomo Fisher, there was no need for intellectual perception of Hashem, because they had just confronted Hashem, so to speak, face to face. So therefore, the men's normal advantage over the women was wiped out and eliminated. What was left? To take the knowledge of Hashem and absorb it and assimilate it in one's heart, to take it to heart. Women are much better than that than men are, because men are stiff-necked jerks. So therefore, men don't necessarily take things to heart. So in this case also, the women, once they saw the revelation of Har Sinai, they took things to heart and they knew there's God. both intellectually and emotionally, and they function accordingly. Men, even once they recognize that there was a God, they have to say they remain with the difficulty of coming to have an impact upon their emotions. So therefore, they retain their stubborn and stiff-necked perspective, and as a result, they sin with the golden calf. Now, the point is that, actually another point which he makes, is that that's why the Pasuk says, sorry, I spilled my coffee on camera, it's not so good, but this cup seems to leak. Anyway, we're trying to fix it. There's a pasuk which says that in the last week's parasha, but Daber b'nei kos amar b'nei Yaakov v'sagei b'nei Yisrael. This is what you should say to the house of Jacob, and this is how you should speak to the house of the children of Israel. So Rashi says, Chazal, the name of Chazal, that Amar is a soft language, Daber is a hard language, and Beis Yaakov refers to the women, and Beis Yisrael refers to the men. So to the women you can speak softly, because they find it easy to accept things and take them to heart. To men you have to speak tough, because men, you gotta, since they are so stiff-necked, you have to be tough with them, you have to fight fire with fire in order to get them to accept something. And there's Rosh Hashanah also made down a sefer called the Torah Meir, with the early Achronim, who says, we have two pasuk in this week's parsha. One pasuk says, V'yisam li segula mikol amim, you should be for me a unique treasure from all the nations. And then it says, Mamlechas Kohanim, a nation of priests, a monarchy of priests, the Goy Kodesh, and a holy nation. So the Torah Meir says, the first reference, V'yisam li segula, it refers to the women. The second reference of Mamlechas Kohanim and Goy Kodesh refers to the men. Why? Because women have a different role than men. Women usually have, because they have this, on a simpler level, on this emunas noshim level, this belief in God, so they are intrinsically connected to God because it automatically goes to their hearts. It might not be the ideal intellectual belief which we strive for people to have, but they have a basic belief which makes it easier for them to be in that situation of being a cherished treasure, a unique nation of Hashem. Men have a far more difficult time. So men are therefore, and they have, but since they have more, the reason they have a more difficult time is because they're more stubborn. Stubbornness is also an advantage. Chazal say we were given Torah because we were stubborn. There are two meanings of that. One is because we're stubborn, and because of Ksherov, we need the Torah to make us less stubborn. Two, because we're stubborn, we can keep the Torah and present the Torah even in adverse situations. So that was why we were given the Torah, and we're given this job of being a nation of priests. In this context, the Sforno says, what does a nation of priests mean? It means a nation which goes out and represents Hashem. Now this goes back to the mission given to mankind at the beginning of Sefer Bereshis. There Hashem says, Cersei says it to Malachim, and then he says to Adam himself, you should govern over all the animals and all the fish and all the birds, etc., and conquer the land. So the question obviously, what kind of destiny is that for mankind? Right, to be a conqueror? So the conquest we're talking about is not the conquest of warfare. What it means is to be the master in a positive and spiritual way of everything which exists in creation. When it says redu, govern and control, means govern and control not by eating them even, because Adam Rishon wasn't allowed to eat meat. So Machlin is if he's allowed to eat roadkill or not, but Hashem is not allowed to kill animals and eat the animals. So therefore, if that's the case, clearly when it says control them, it means govern them in a benevolent and positive way, which allows them to do the Kiddush Hashem they're supposed to do, or brings out Kiddush Hashem they're supposed to do, and certainly among human beings, do the same thing.
Did the animals eat meat?
What?
Did the animals eat each other?
Before the
mobile.
I think so.
I
I don't think they're all herbivores.
I think they were, no?
I don't think so. You remember a specific source?
Rashi. I think so.
Rashi? Those animals didn't eat each other.
They have Rishid also. I think we got Rishid on that too. It's okay, let's continue.
Anyway. Maybe I wrong, I just don't remember. Anyway, so I said this and a lot more than this over on Shabbos when I was in San Diego, and one of the people who was there was astonished because I said over in the name of the Sforno says this explicitly, something which we say in the Shir all the time, which is that ideally speaking, the Jewish people are supposed to go out and be missionaries and go and teach the world about Hashem and about the 7 commands given to Noah. Even if they don't have to keep the Torah mitzvahs, they don't have to keep the 613 mitzvahs, but they have to keep the 7 mitzvahs. So therefore, we really should be going out and teaching them about doing these mitzvahs. So this fellow said, what are you talking about? That's not what we're supposed to do. That we're supposed to lead by example. We're supposed to stay in Israel, and the people are going to come to Israel and see what we're like, and then they'll do the right thing. So I pointed out to him, I said that when Chazal speak about that, it's at the end of the relates to the Torah, which we read when Shabbos comes down on Rosh Chodesh. So, Rosh Chodesh comes down on Shabbos, to be more precise. So, there it says that people come, Chazal about that say that people are going to come to Yerushalayim and see what amazing nation this nation is. I'm not sure if it's in that after I think of that. I remember which after it's in. But they're going to come to Yerushalayim and see what a wonderful nation this is, and they're all going to convert to Judaism. So that's about conversion. If they come to Yerushalayim, they'll even convert. But when they remain in their places, so then they're not going to convert necessarily. But we have to go and teach them the Shem Mitzvahs and Noach. So that's a very new concept for this fellow. We couldn't grasp that we have to actually have an obligation to do this. But the Sforno says that we do have this obligation. So therefore, eventually when redemption comes, I said, so we're going to be judged for not having done our job. Now, according to the Rambam, we rely on Christians to a large extent. The Rambam says that the reason why God created Christianity and Islam was because they would teach the initial stages of monotheism, and then the Jews would come and mop up afterwards. But that alleviates our responsibility, but it doesn't eliminate our responsibility. Because nevertheless, we have the obligation, at the very least, to make sure the Christians do their job. And we're not making sure they do their job. So therefore, the responsibility falls back on us again. So the thing is like this. The fact that the world is a mess is basically all our fault. So therefore, what are we supposed to do about it? And the answer is not much. The answer is that we can't, since class has so many internal problems, so many internal divides, so many internal struggles, it would be almost hypocritical, if not outright hypocritical, for us to go and say, okay, now what I fix it, I have to fix it home, now let me go and recruit the non-Jews in Montgomery, Alabama. Right? So it makes sense. If in New York you have lots of kids going off the derech, so you're going to go to Montgomery and start getting non-Jewish kids to, keep the Shem Mitzvahs off. So therefore, our standard answer is that it's true that we should be doing more, but we can only focus on a relatively small fraction of society and make that work. So, that may be a legitimate excuse to a certain extent, but it's not a full excuse. Because Hashem says, okay, fine. So you had some excuse why you didn't go. But why don't you fix yourself up and then go? In other words, you can take care of internal problems. And then you can go and become a missionary in Africa. So so without that, we don't really have much of an answer. We can say internal problems are the cause, but that still begs the question, why didn't you get involved in the internal problems? Internal problems, why don't you just fix them? So, the idea that we should go out and we should tell the world about Hashem is really very foreign to our day and age. Most people in our day and age would have no concept of actually going out and speaking to non-Jews. So Jews, yes, we have Chabad, we have mitzvah mobiles, we'd have kiruv efforts, but to non-Jews. But that's really what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be going to non-Jews and telling non-Jews about Hashem. That's a King David describes in Ashrei. Our Mimcha L'Chayim Melech, I'm going to go out and praise you, and I'm going to tell everybody about you.
Aren't our hands kind of tied?
Sorry?
Aren't our hands kind of tied?
How so?
Because if we do, they start killing us.
In Charleston, they're going to start killing you?
No. But in the old country,
Yeah. But yeah, now you're in Charleston, aren't you?
yeah.
Who's going to kill in Charleston?
Should there's somebody don't kill him.
A great grandnephew of Stonewall Jackson? Nobody's going to kill him. That's not going to happen. No. If you're real conservative, then nobody will kill you. Not conservative, Confederate. Nobody's going to kill you. Right? So the, conservative, yes, I don't know. In any event, are there any Democrats left in the South?
Sure.
There are, yeah. Where do they hide them?
Nashville.
Bury them.
Nashville? Okay. So in any event, so I don't think they're going to kill you. Of course, that was an excuse which we had in Poland, right? So maybe even an excuse in Africa. You never can tell when those pygmies are going to go on the rampage. But I don't know if it's an excuse in the Carolinas. What? Yes, if you're Jewish, sometimes you're not tall enough to do that. The same phenomenon which prevents us from having Jewish NBA players. Although I read that there's one Israeli in the NBA.
He used to play here. He's from the United States.
Yeah?
He's from the United States, and in high school, his coach catered for Shabbos for him.
That's Meir Goodman.
Oh, I thought you were talking about him. There's another one?
He's not in the NBA, is he?
No. He left and went to Israel. To me,
No, there's one in the NBA.
There's two of them. There's Omri Caspi, he's the Israeli, and there's
Homer Katz, right? What?
Caspi, he plays for Sacramento.
Uh-huh.
And there's one other place from New Jersey, but he's not Israeli, he's just Jewish. He's Jordan Farmer.
He's not Jewish?
He's Jewish, but not Israeli.
Not Israeli. Oh, Homer Katz, that was the one I read about, yeah. Okay.
He plays for Jersey.
Because like when this team travels to other cities, they make a big publicity about it.
Yeah, Jewish, yeah.
Yeah, that he's really.
Nobody makes fun of him. Nobody makes a publicity of this Jersey guy.
What?
The Jersey player, nobody makes.
Well, he's only Jewish. He's not Israeli. Anyway, Shlomo, I'm impressed with your knowledge here.
Oh, basketball is my passion.
Oh, really? Okay. You know what Chafetz Chaim is supposed to have said about basketball?
There was basketball this time?
This is what they said. I don't know if it's true or not true. They said he cannot say what pleasure people get out of watching men running around in their underwear.
You wore shorts back then? Yeah, they wore short shorts.
I think they were shorts back then.
Yeah, short shorts.
Really short.
Yeah, short shorts. There were a lot of good Jewish basketball players in that time.
Yeah, because then there was before you have to get tall. Yeah. Anyway, so this comes back to one of our old issues in this year. One of the issues which continuously irks and bothers us, which is that there's no more idealism today. Nobody's idealistic about anything. It could be that once upon a time the people were. I think that they actually were until the late 1960s. But since then, idealism has basically been on the wane. There's true in secular society as well. It's not just true in Jewish society, but the chiddush, the novelty, is that it's true in Jewish society. And people are not as idealistic as they once were. They don't feel a sense of mission in life, a sense of destiny to go and do something, great for mankind, or great for humanity, or great for even Jews. So, what we have to focus on is to influence the amount of people we can influence. None of us is going to be held accountable in heaven, at least not that I'm aware of, for not having brought the entire generation back to God. But each one of us is going to be held accountable if we knew somebody who we could have done. We could have brought it back to God and we didn't bring it back to God. There are levels of leadership. Ultimately, Mashiach is the greatest leader in terms of bringing about tshuva, and he has a good assist from Eliyahu Hanavi. But everybody can do it on his own microcosmic level, wherever that person is. Now, we mentioned that not everybody's supposed to go out and do things. Some people can even bring about tshuva in the world by saying learning Torah, So Slanta said, if a Jew learns Hilchos Shabbos and Kovna, then another Jew will keep Shabbos better in Paris. That we do have such a principle. But that's the indirect principle. The direct principle is to go out and display what it means to be holy and what it means to be able to have a connection with Hashem. So, for this purpose, they're given the trait of kashisora, the being stiff-necked, being able to resist all sorts of distractions in this mission. The problem is that since we don't feel a sense of mission, and especially because it goes together. We don't feel sense of mission. And about Goyim, we feel Goyim, many people feel, not myself, I hope not, but Goyim are extremely a low form of life, if not animal life. Then, because of that, I don't think we really care. And that's a big problem. Because we should care. Even if we can't do anything about it, it's important to know we should be doing something about it. So therefore, I think that's the lack of idealism, which exists today, which prevents many things from implemented, which otherwise would be implemented. Now, there was once a time when, we don't have the money and we don't have the wherewithal, we can't travel there, but all those excuses are gone. So nowadays we should be doing something. But we're not. And again, the answer we like giving is because we have enough to fix ourselves. That's not necessarily the real answer. Because...
What would you say the average religious Jew lives for nowadays?
Doing mitzvahs to get to Olam Haba.
They're consciously doing mitzvahs to get to Olam Haba?
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle for many of them?
What?
Speaking for somebody who is born religious. It's not a lifestyle, it's not...
Oh, at best! It could be just a lifestyle thing, yeah.
Oh, at best, okay, it could be just like, and at best he's actually doing mitzvahs in order to get to Olam Haba, because maybe he's not alive.
Which is not the right reason to do mitzvahs.
Okay. So my other thing is, how do you define idealism in the Jewish sense of the word? You spoke about missionary and everything else, but
to work on behalf of God.
Okay, so we have in the Jewish communities in Muncie, in Brooklyn, and elsewhere, we have organizations like Hatzalah, Haverim, and other forms of Gemach that do exist that out there, to promote peace, in order to promote Hesed, and to help Yidden, in every sense of the word. So there is an idealistic for the sake of unity and for the sake of Hesed. There is that idealism that certain people have. As a community as a whole, sponsors these types of events, Hever Kadisha, and everything else. So that's not idealistic?
It might be not.
Elaborate more on that?
If I like being a member of Hatzalah because I carry lots of keys on my walkie-talkie.
On Shabbos.
On Shabbos. Then that's not idealism.
I'm saying the existence of this, it's in
a
itself.
person can be Hatzalah Machas I don't need to say anything about a specific Hatzalah member.
Yeah.
But you can understand there could be a Hatzalah member who gets thrilled about being able to do Mechal Shabbos Be'eter every week.
Okay.
Possible?
Possible?
Probable?
I don't know.
I think it's probable.
Okay, now, but my question is, at the body itself, not at the specific individual. As the body itself, the purpose of Hatzalah is to save Eden, to give first aid to a Yid. So that itself, the body itself, looking at Haverim, looking at any other Heber Kadisha, and any other Hesed organization, is there to promote a sense of well-being and peace and kindness to the Jews. So that's idealistic, no?
No.
And they don't get paid.
Yeah.
They don't get paid. It's not something to make parnasa from, either. Most.
Okay.
And the funds come from the community. So there is that sense of idealism in that aspect.
Okay.
So we have to define our terms. What's idealistic and...
Idealistic means it's like self-sacrificing.
Those are self-sacrificing.
About giving money?
Giving money, being part of Haverim, being part of Hatzalah. Even though an individual, you might say he's...
It depends what a person does it,
But
right?
as a body in itself, it doesn't function that way.
Right.
Okay.
That's true. Is that your point?
I'm just saying we're idealistic. We're not as not idealistic as Rabbi thinks.
Yes, but the problem is that Hatzalah, they won't, I'm not sure about Hatzalah. They had this experience with a different group of that sort. So we're not our non-Jewish housekeeper had some issue with her car, so we called Chaverim. They didn't want to come.
Because she was a goy?
Yeah. They only do Jews.
Okay.
But by them getting her...
Go ahead, justify it.
Okay. When you have limited resources, you have to pick your needs.
By the way, in the end they did it. I just want to make it clear. They did come there.
Yeah, but by them getting her out of
So,
your
okay, so
house,
that proves only my point.
being hidden,
What?
by them getting her, on the road and out of your house, so to speak, to bring you into it, is that not helping you?
Well, that was what I argued. And they succumbed to that in the end. But really, I shouldn't have to argue about that.
But you do understand that if you have 1,000 and none even call you, you don't. Then the purpose of your organization sort of falls apart. Like the same with Hatzal. If the Hatzal's phone number starts spreading around,
why does it fall apart?
falls apart because if the primary purpose is help Yidden, you're not helping Yidden anymore. There are more going.
I'm not sure how we prove that either way.
There are more going than Yidden underneath, right? Agree?
Yeah.
Even in Rockland County, there's probably more going than Yidden living. Okay.
I doubt it, but possibly.
All in Rockland County.
Okay.
I think that'll be true. Okay. So, if that number is being spread around, and in Brooklyn especially, there will be more non-Jewish people using that service because it's a free service. It's a great service. It's AAA for free. People will be using that service. So every non-Jewish person that's gonna call you, what are you gonna tell them? Oh, I'm sorry, you're not Jewish, therefore I can't help you. That'll be racism, not Hell Hashem. So therefore, at its best, we want to keep it secret. At its best, we want to keep it quiet. And people should understand this is only primarily done for the Jewish people. Because the resources are not unlimited. There are only that many people that are out there to help you at any given time. So when there's a Jew that has a car broken down and a non-Jew, you want to help where your resources is the most centered to.
I understand. I understand. It could be that's a good rationalization. I'm not sure that's what actually is going through their mind.
I think that's the policy.
Okay? Now,
the other thing that you spoke about idealism as well.
what they were saying. I forgot it was. Okay, go ahead.
I think you're bashing the Jewish system a little bit too much. While I do agree that a lot of Jews might live their life as a lifestyle and they don't really know the purpose of their life, or have a specific purpose why they're doing it, I think at the center, for a lot of people, for a lot, not for most, but for a lot, is, at least I think consciously, is raising a healthy Jewish family, with having a healthy Jewish family values, which is a pretty big idealistic goal in itself. Even without the hesed that we're doing, and even without all the other organization, if a person just concentrates on raising a good, healthy family that could function in society healthy and produce another generation of healthy individuals, that is as idealistic as you're going to get in this world.
Okay.
Okay, so do you still have any ties against the Jewish nation besides going to Africa?
Yes, they hung.
God-forsaken land. What?
They hung.
They hung. There for what?
You have to see Titus against the Jewish nation. There you have Titus. They hung.
They hung, and an individual is a body.
I would say it's a body. I don't know. Can't tell you. What's the difference?
Big difference.
New Yorkers honk, Rabbi.
It's an atmosphere in the air, Rabbi. It's not the Jewish atmosphere. Just that's the atmosphere in the air. That's New York's. You go to the South, I'm sure they don't hung there.
No, I
No.
don't.
You don't.
If they do honk, then it's going to be if somebody honks, then usually it's escalated
Serious.
to some serious point.
The shotguns are coming out next. So the what do they call it? The Hatfields and the McCoys. So the yeah. So in any event, it is idealistic to want to raise a Jewish family, but most people are capable of a little bit more than that.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay.
But most people are capable of having an impact, at least in their community. That's something I stressed in San Diego. And it's also good to try to have an impact in your community because you emulate Hashem, right? That's the name of the game, right?
No,
Hashem
but
gives-
then I could make a contra argument.
No?
Of course I can make a contra argument. Because when if you have 2.5 kids in your family, so let's say you set aside 2 hours of your days making sure they're doing their homework and you're spending time with them and whoever it is. So then you have free time after that
Give a
to
share.
spend on the community, right?
Give a share.
Fine. But when you have 6 kids and you're trying to pay their tuition and you're trying to pay your mortgage,
You're not going to afford it anyway, so what's the difference?
okay.
So you might as well do something for the community.
No, that doesn't work that way.
No?
People shouldn't say, since I can't afford it, therefore I have to afford it. I shouldn't try to afford it. That's not the right way of thinking like that.
I think it is actually.
Okay. You have to be idealistic. You have to be idealistic. It's not being idealistic.
Anyway,
Idealistic is that I'm trying to support my kids. I want to pay the tuition as much as possible. I shouldn't have to rely on other people. And then, if I have extra time, which not always happens that you do have extra time.
Shlomo, don't you dare have this attitude,
Such as?
which you just described.
What is my attitude?
Because it would be a rationalization.
Can you explain?
You're a coward.
I'm a coward.
You're a coward, right?
I'm a coward. Please explain to yourself why I'm a coward.
In other words, you are nervous and tense and anxious about going out and giving shiurim and impressing upon people the eternal truths of the Torah.
If you knew me well, Rabbi, you'd know how false that statement is.
So what do you do?
Outside the yeshiva?
Yeah.
When I go to a base medrash, if there's anybody ever that wants to learn with me, I'll learn with them.
Good. So then, if that's the case, then I'm wrong.
And I
So
have
then you
goals
understand?
of teaching people. I have not maybe not giving a shiur in front of hundreds of people, but in a small chabura, I would like to give a shiur.
Oh, so why can everybody do that?
What?
Why can everybody?
My time is free, Robin. My time, I don't have that much things to do in my life at this moment in time. Therefore, I could do it. A person who has 6 kids, one of them is a baby, one of them is a 2-year-old, another one of them is a teenager that's struggling with this issue. You have a wife, you have bills, you have tuition. It gets a little bit too much. That's why even Rob, the Jewish community's issue.
I think it's too much to save the world, but not to actually do something impactful nevertheless.
You could do a small thing if you find time. Maybe each person take 10 minutes a week to do something for them, maybe. But I'm saying, even then, you have to take each case individually. It's not so simple to say, well, you're not doing enough. Now, if there are people, unfortunately, that live their life, and they're not goal-centered in anything, and they're just care about, when I'm going to get my next vacation, to go for 2 weeks or somewhere else. I'm not speaking about those type of people. I'm speaking about people who are consciously aware of what their purpose is.
Okay, so actually that leads me to the other topic I want to speak about tonight, which is I finally understood for the first time, this is, you'll see how it's connected. I finally think I understood for the first time the fundamental premise of the Tanya, which always made me depressed. The Tanya says, basically, that a tzaddik, you don't have a tzaddik if you're born a tzaddik. If you're not born a tzaddik, then there's no hope. To be a Beinoni, to be an average person, you don't have to be born that way, but you have to never have sinned in your entire life. You struggle with sinning, but you never actually have sinned. Everybody else is a Russia. So it's always got me depressed. Because it means, basically, for most of us losers, there's no chance even to be an average person, to be a Beinoni. Certainly a tzaddik is beyond us. So for many years I felt, well, the approach to the Tanya is, well, it doesn't really mean it. Because we know that in Gemara, a tzaddik is somebody who fights as the Yetzer Hara, mostly wins. A Beinoni fights, doesn't know, it's 50-50, and a Rosh is one who usually succumbs. But not that a tzaddik is somebody who never, even a tzaddik, according to the Tanya, never even had a thought of sinning. And a Beinoni has a thought but never acts. And everybody else is a Rosh. You know the problem I have with that? Depressing. Would it be depressing?
I think it's against the fundamentals of Torah.
You think it's against the fundamentals of Torah? Okay, so that means it's more than depressing, right? What would it say, right?
It's
I don't think so.
manic.
What?
It's downright manic.
I think it's Hasidish.
So now this week, I finally understood it. All of a sudden, when I was doing Rav Zevna on the parasha, he brings down the last week's parasha says, the last pasuk is, Lo sala b'malos hamizbechi asher lo tikoleh abas cholav. You shouldn't go up on steps towards the altar, so that your nakedness should not be revealed upon it. So there are many possible interpretations of why there's such a mitzvah in the Torah. A gazillion interpretations. I gave like 4 on Shabbos. But Rav Zevin gives a Jewish explanation, a homiletical explanation. He says, do not go up miles in levels, because if you go up too far above your level, you reveal your nakedness. He says, a person's got to know, which is one of the things, 48 things which the Torah is required, mafkiras makom. A person doesn't know his place. A person who does know his place is deceiving, delusional, seeing himself, delusional. That person is very, very badly off. Right? So therefore, a person has to know where he is and not jump. They say that the Chafetz Chaim, every time he used to give a letter to a courier, right? Instead of actually mailing it, so he used to whip up a postage stamp. So he didn't cause loss ever to the Polish government. Who's heard that story about the Chafetz Chaim? Never heard a story? You understand the story? Okay, so if any of us did that, we would transgress an Isser D'Oraisa, perhaps, about Tashkis. We would transgress, Tashkis is Rabbanim, but in any event, we transgress the prohibition about Tashkis. You have a perfectly good stamp, which is worth, I don't know, 44 cents today, and you rip it up, you idiot! You just caused yourself a loss of 44 cents. For the Chafetz Chaim, it's an amazing thing to do. For you, it's wrong. Why? Because the Chofetz Chaim and his Madrega, he really felt for the Polish government. He was a tzaddik. He felt, boy, I'm getting illicit pleasure, and Poland is getting a loss. And this is a real postage stamp.
Why would it be wrong for us to do that?
Because if we do it, it's because we feel I'm going to Chofetz Chaim.
Why is that?
You don't feel the loss to the American government.
But it's still.
Did you ever send an email?
It's still theft.
Did you ever send an email?
Of course, but it's
You
still,
caused the loss to the American government.
it's still theft.
Theft! Why is it theft?
Yeah, because you're getting free delivery, but
No! He sent it with a message, a guy, a friend of his. Sent a letter to America with a friend of his.
I don't understand.
Chofetz Chaim, whenever he sent a letter to somebody, as a favor, you know, he gave it to Yankov, who's going to America to give it to Reb Shmendrik, right? So when he would rip up an airmail stamp, didn't have airmail back then. He would rip up a stamp.
For what purpose?
Because he caused the loss to the Polish government.
Oh,
because he gave the money to, he gave Yankov.
Instead of having the government
Exactly.
send it. Oh.
Right. That's not the way you heard the story?
No.
That's where the story goes.
What did you hear?
Yeah, how did you hear it?
I don't even remember how I heard the story, but what I got out of it was that when you get these stamps that don't have the stamp on it that's been used.
No,
That's what I was thinking first.
That's something else. Yeah. That's something else.
You hear the story about when he was getting on a train and they were like, it was like at the last minute and the guy just said, go ahead and get on the train, you don't have to pay the taxes for what you're carrying, whatever. He was like, you know, who are you? You can't tell me not to pay taxes. And, like, pay the taxes. You heard that story?
No, but I mean, not about Chofetz Chaim. I've heard stories like that. But I think that's one of those interchangeable stories. Plug in the God, apply the story, poof, presto. But the Chofetz Chaim with the postage stamp, that's a unique one. Okay? So again, for us to be absolutely forbidden to do such a thing. And he said, because it just be stam gaiva, just plain old pride, masquerading as actual Yiras Shamayim. The same thing he says about the beautiful chat. Machlin says, and Mar Ukva said, I'm like vinegar versus my father, who is wine. My father, between meat and milk, he waited 24 hours. I only wait from one meal to the other meal. So I'm like vinegar, son of wine. So the obvious question is, so wait 24 hours. If you think it's so chashuv to wait 24 hours, so wait 24 hours. And the answer is, says Rav Zera, no! He knew he wasn't holy by that. He knew if he did it, it wouldn't be because he feels that meat and milk have to be so separate. He'd be doing it because he wants to say, I'm holier than you are. I keep 24 hours and you don't. So therefore it would be forbidden for him.
Okay, so how does this tie into time?
Ah! So now we can understand the time. Time works like this. And he does bring down the time. So that's why now he doesn't explain the time exactly how to explain it, but very similar. The shot is like this. There are people who are made to be tzaddikim. There are people made to be beinonim and people made to be rishoyim. The people made to be tzaddikim, they automatically do good. They don't have any problem doing good. They don't have any temptation to do bad. We weren't born like that. That's not our job. That's not our mission. What mission they have, the tzaddikim, it might even be less of a mission than ours. Because for tzaddik to learn through Kol Torah Kula 101 times, right? Which none of us is going to do, a pashas in the course of our lifetime. But for him it's easier than, not looking with lust at a girl or something, right?
Isn't it one of the things that...
Wait, listen, finish the idea. So, and a Beinoni is on his madrega, right? A Beinoni is on a level, he does have to fight thoughts of sin. But he never sins. That's his job, right? But those of us who are Rishoyim, what does that mean? I don't know, you should know about time, I don't think I ever used the term Rasha in this context, but just applying his principles. So Rishoyim, it doesn't mean that we're doomed to be Rishoyim. It means we are created in that state. And don't delude yourself to say you're a Beinoni, and don't delude yourself to say you're a Tzaddik. No, you are in the state of being a Rasha. Not that you're a Rasha in the sense that you've done more of mitzvahs than Averos. But you have one person who has a real Yetzer Hara which makes you sin. And you are created on that level to function on that level. Not only that, But according to Tanya, you don't even need a Rebbe, the way other Hasidim learn. Because according to the other Hasidim, the people who are Rishoyim need a Rebbe. Why? Because otherwise they're lost. They need a Savior. Just like the Christian Mahavir needs Jesus, so to the Chassid needs a Rebbe, because otherwise how is that ever going to function? But like my new understanding about Tanya, the Pshat is everybody on their own, where they are, is who's supposed to be, whatever they can be. They have to recognize, okay, he's a Beinoni, he's a tzaddik, maybe he's better than me in other ways. But so what? I might be more of a Kiddush Hashem because of the nisyonos that I face. You hear that? You hear that? Isn't that cool?
Yes.
Why is it called?
49 years. Up close. I'm going to 49 next month. 49 years. You need to understand that.
No, it took you on that 49 years.
What?
You didn't learn this 49 years ago.
Okay, I'm trying to be dramatic, and you're taking away from me. You know, thanks a lot. Okay, this is what happens. You're trying to be dramatic, and then people in the audience, they take it away. Thank you. Yes.
Should
Okay.
say half a century.
What? Half a century, yes.
With all the previous arrangements.
Close to half a century I've been working. Yes, what are you trying to say for?
Isn't that one of the things that Hashem doesn't control on each person? Like,
No, he does. No. This goes back to the Mazel thing. He puts you into that situation. What you do then with that situation, that's up to you.
So he's saying that an average human being is designed to have more attempts to sin, and that you have to struggle with sin. That your purpose in life is to struggle with sinning, and even the times that you do sin, so you're just really accomplishing whatever what you were created for to a certain extent. But you should always try to be striving higher than that. You should try to succumb those temptations. Whereas
Not succumb, overcome.
Whereas a tzaddik, he doesn't have a habamina of sinning, and his whole purpose is to live a holy life for whatever to be guidance to others, whatever it is. My question is, we have an understanding the higher the person madrega, the higher his yetzer. So how does this fit in with what you're saying now? I mean, a tzaddik is a tzaddik, but nevertheless he has he should have
So like about Tanya, the way it says like this. About Tanya say, in each level of Russia, it's Beinoni Tzaddik, there are Rishoyim, Beinonim, and Tzaddikim. Each level subdivides. We know in Kabbalah it's like the two, right? Every sphera has 10 spheros in it, right? And those 10 spheros have 10 spheros in them, right? Everything subdivides, ad infinitum. So too, in each Madrega, there's a Russia Tzaddik, a Russia Beinoni, and Tzaddik. Right? So, I forgot your question. What was the question?
The higher the person's level, the more.
Oh yeah. So within the category of Russia, there is such a thing. Now, within the category of Beinoni, there's such a thing. And I think that Gemara, where it says, it's talking about Abaye. And Abaye is also the same person who said he's a Beinoni. I don't think I'm making this up. It could be. But even if I am, it sounds good. And it might be true, even if I am making it up. That a person can be on the level of Russia Tzaddik, if most of the time he does the right thing. On the level of Russia Beinoni, if he messes up half and half, right? Level of Russia, if he messes up most of the time.
So what does the tzaddik mess up exactly?
The tzaddik messes up in that he has a chisaron in his dveikus.
Like Moshe Rabbeinu or something?
Like Yishai. It says that David HaMelech said about Yishai, his father. He says, when Yishai and his mother conceived him, about this, David HaMelech says, "B'chet yichem trani imi." My mother conceived me in sin. So the question is obviously, Yishai, the father of David, was one of the holiest men in the world. He's one of the 4 people who died only because the snake, because of the curse which came in the time of the snake. So how can you say that Yishai was a choyte, a sinner? The answer is, the Gemara, the Meir says, because I'm this Meir many times, afilu chassid shebechasidim, lanas atzmo kamachavim. You can have a mind for your own pleasure.
That was what happened.
What?
That's not the story.
What do you mean?
The whole story that he separated from his wife.
No, that's not that story.
But
Nothing might be a magic. No!
That's the first
No! But that's not what the Medrash says. You're talking about a different Medrash.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, he was a mamzer because his mother dressed up.
Exactly.
And
so when he conceives him, he wasn't thinking of his wife.
But that's not what the Medrash is saying.
And then Sinah was conceived.
But this does they're in Medrash.
What?
So they're in Medrash.
So what does this Medrash say?
Don't look so upset about it. Yes. Okay.
What does this Medrash say?
It says exactly what I said. Afilu chassid shebechasidim lanos asuka b'chavi.
So you're not allowed to have a little pleasure?
Again, who we're talking about?
Regardless.
We're talking about the great tzaddik.
This is like what you said.
The great tzaddik does not have selfish pleasure.
A selfish pleasure.
Selfish pleasure. I think, I don't remember if this is true or not. This part I'm a bit iffy on. But I think that the fact that Meir says that you should know this is the case, because after husband and wife have relations, they turn their backs to each other. Don't ask me. But in any event, that's what it says. I think it says that there. And the pshat is that a person who's on that level of a tzaddik, according to Baal Tanya, so that's his nisayon. That he should do things for the hana always of other people, not for his own hana. You can get hana from the fact that somebody else is getting hana, that you're allowed to do. That's what Hashem's pleasure in this world is, right? He gets pleasure because you're having pleasure. That's why the stories, there's the story they say about the Baal Shem Tov and the Vilna Gaon, the same story, that once there's no esrog in town, and except for one esrog, which was owned by some person, either a widow or a rich person or a poor person, however the story goes, and they send a messenger, the Gra / Baal Shem Tov, that they need that esrog, and the owner of the esrog said back, I'm only going to give it to you to give me all of your own haba. And the Gra / Baal Shem Tov said, Gevaldik, I'm so happy because now I'm going to serve Hashem. Shalom Naskab Pras, without the then receiving reward. And the voice comes down from heaven and says that because they get double the reward and everybody lives happily ever after. Anybody ever heard a variation of that story? Right?
Not the double Olam Haba, that's something new. I never heard that.
That's a new one?
Yeah.
Okay. Your Olam Haba is restored, right? Isn't that what it says?
I know that. I didn't know it was good.
Okay, but in any event, so you never heard the punchline.
No.
So be that as it may, the
I
point.
feel like maybe I'm gonna marry your daughter. I'm gonna get you tefillin or something else.
This story, that version that's version number 629. Well, let's talk about version number 628. So the bottom line is the story is sheker. Can't be true because it's a chutzpah you to the prime of Hashem of the pleasure of giving you pleasure.
But sure.
How does this story fit in?
What?
Sure it wasn't true.
I'm sure it wasn't true.
You should have your own version of which stories are true. You should be like Slipkin and decide which stories are true.
You know what they say about the Shivchei Besh, the famous story, right?
Which one is it?
Famous attitude. The Shivchei Besh is the, so to speak, the biography of the Baal Shem Tov. Main story is about Baal Shem Tov, right? So they say anybody who, you know this way.
Yeah.
Anybody who believes all the stories are true is a fool. Anybody who believes the stories could not be true is an apikoros. So I don't know if the saying is true, but it is an interesting saying, and this gives some perspective. There's gedolim stories, especially the ones which are interchangeable, numerous times, numerous places between the Baal Shem Tov and the Gra. So you don't have to believe they ever took place, because they're just the plug and play type, right? But to believe they're not positive, they couldn't have taken place, then you have to be questioned.
But now you say they could have not taken place, so explain
What did
yourself.
No, because it didn't happen. I'm saying that they weren't on a madrega that it could have taken place.
Well, then they weren't what?
On a madrega, on a level.
They weren't. Explain.
Anybody who says that the stories about the Baal Shem Tov all occurred is a fool.
Yes.
Anybody who says that the type of miracles described within the stories could not have been performed by the Baal Shem Tov is not pikoros.
Good. Now, tie into what you were saying. You said that story never happened. So, do you disagree that story ever happened or not?
Which story?
The one with the Gra / Baal Shem Tov.
I don't know if it happened or not, but I know.
You said it didn't happen. You just
I got it.
explicitly never happened.
Oh no, it couldn't have happened. I'm sorry. Yeah, it couldn't have happened. Right.
Okay, so now it could have never happened.
Right.
So are you trying to be an apikoros now?
And what?
I don't forget.
The concept of the story
concept,
could
yeah.
be true, but the nisim, but not the story.
Oh, the concept. But you said the whole concept couldn't be true, no?
You got it.
How can the concept be true in another story then?
What do you mean?
You said the whole purpose is for HaKadosh Baruch to get anah. So how can you deny somebody else's pleasure? No, that's what you
The
were
guy
saying.
loved Hashem so much, he jumped off the roof because there was a woman there. Could be he loved so much Hashem, but he didn't really jump off the roof.
I want to get if
I'm confused. Let's go back there.
no, you're not confused. You learn kedushin.
Yes.
You know the first part of kedushin.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to remind you of the sugi of Adam Chashiv.
A woman could, if a woman could ask him to marry her, even without giving a pruter, and by him saying yes, she's married to him, because by him being so harsh and accepting her request, she gets a pleasure out of it, and therefore she is Mekudesh to him.
Now you understand?
Okay.
That's what I was saying, right?
Okay. Alright, we'll get back to it. Let's go. I'm not connecting the two stories.
No, in other words, just like if I give you a gift, right? It could be you giving to me,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
If I accept Hashem's reward, it's as about giving it to Hashem.
Yes. Fine. So I was playing to the story now.
That's why was about Hashem over the Gra, deprive Hashem the opportunity to give him reward.
Okay, here. Yeah, very
Okay.
interesting story.
So, trying to figure out where I was up to with this.
Can I ask you an unrelated question?
Yeah.
Are you supposed to listen to your father?
You're supposed to listen to your father? Depends on what.
The concept, you have to listen to your father?
But nothing in Judaism is a yes or no answer. And over the answer is always, it depends.
This is a mitzvah of obeying your father.
Is there a mitzvah of obeying your father or only respect?
Honoring your father.
No,
Is there any mitzvah of obeying?
Yes, there is. Except by the big three. To learn Torah, to make money, and one more. Not to make money. To learn Torah, to go to Eretz Yisrael,
And to marry, no?
and Shidduchim. Yeah. Those two don't listen to bear.
But also, if it's not to the benefit of your father, you also don't have to. If your father tells you, put on a sweater before you leave, but he's just not asking you for as a precaution measure for your own benefit, not for his benefit, then you don't have to really listen to him, right?
Right.
It's only if he tells you something, bring me a cup of coffee, then that's an obligation you have to fulfill.
But,
So anything that is not directly benefiting your father, you don't have to do.
right.
Wouldn't that fall under honoring and as over obeying?
Which one?
That's well.
Go get me some coffee. You honor him by getting coffee for him. It's not about obeying him.
As opposed to what?
Obeying.
Obey?
Yeah, obeying.
Yeah, but you could honor him by anticipating his need. But if you didn't anticipate his need, you honor him by fulfilling his request. This famous story from Chaim Brisker. It was Rosh Hashanah Rosh. He said, some bacher came over to him and said, the halacha is kibbur aveim mishal av. Kibbur aveim, a father has to pay for kibbur aveim. If your father doesn't bring you a cup of wine, you can charge for the cup of wine. Right? Just say yes. So he came to Chaim and said, I'm not going home to visit my father because he's not sending me the money and he's willing to spend the money. So Chaim said to him, you're right. You have to go by foot. You have to track. The fact that you want to go by train and save the day, 5 days of traveling, it's your problem. Your father's not willing to pay for that. Your father's willing to pay for the $5 it costs to take a bus or a train.
Okay, so my question would be now this kibbur aveim.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Did I get that right? I don't know if I said that right, but you got the idea. Yeah.
There's a halacha that if your mother and your father ask you
The father goes first.
Okay, now why is that?
Because the mother is required to respect the father.
Mazel tov. Now my question would be,
Here.
it's a very simple question. If your grandfather and your father ask the same question,
The father goes first.
why is that?
Because you're mechuyev to cover your grandfather because he's your father's father.
Now, isn't this hard because your father has the obligation to they covered your grandfather and therefore if...
What?
Alright, so my question would be, let's go back to the mother and the father. Even if it's true that your mother has the obligation to cover your father, why is it given to you to decide that it overrides your obligation to your mother? Meaning, it's true your mother has the obligation to give cover to your father, but it doesn't tell you at this moment specifically how to act. It just tells you have your mother and your father. If you give it to your mother has the obligation to give it to the father, but you should not have the obligation yourself. Am I making myself clear, Rabbi?
Yeah, it's probably yourself clear.
Okay. Can you rephrase what I said?
No, because I was sleeping. Try again.
Okay then.
I thought I understood it, but I wasn't sleeping actually. So
We should cut all of these out. Make a That's gonna be the next project, bro. I'll get back at you that
I
way.
told somebody in San Diego that I can fall asleep while standing up and giving shir. He couldn't believe it. We have the testimony many times over. Go ahead.
Okay, so now my question is that even though it's true that you have the obligation, your mother has the obligation to give kavod to your father. What gives you the right to override your own mother's obligation? I mean, at this moment in time, I have an obligation to my mother and my father. Just because she has an extra obligation doesn't give me the right to override my obligation to her.
You're asking a very good question, but there's the same way we have like Allah cumulative rabbi, you always give the more severe punishment.
Yeah.
So the covenant of the person who most mukhid to give covenant to comes first.
Based on what? You said that most kavod too you should give, but in this situation your mother and your father have the same exact amount of kavod. We have a step removed that your mother has an extra kavod to your father. That's a different story. But it doesn't apply to me. It applies to my mother specifically. So if I give a cup of coffee to my mother, she has the obligation to give it to my father. But why does it translate? Why does that override my obligation to my mom before my father? I'm not catching it. Did you fall asleep?
No, I actually got it this time. I'm not trying to figure out how to answer you. The mother.
Can you rephrase my question? Rephrase my question, please.
Yes. Believe it or not, I can do it this time.
Yeah.
We have a law which says if you have a choice to honor your mother and father at the same time, right? You have to honor your father first because the way the Chazal put it is you and your mother mechuyev to cover your father. So you're asking, but vis-a-vis me, I have equal mitzvahs for my mother and my father. So why should the fact that my mother is responsible for my father impact on who I have to go first?
Yes.
Right? See, you got it?
Is it London?
It's a long question, but I'm going to give you a Babatisha answer.
Okay, alright.
What if your father's a goy?
What?
What if your father's a goy?
Then you have to say there's no Torah chiyuv b'kibbut avim, but he's still your father, so therefore you should give him respect anyway.
Gratitude.
You still serve him over your mother? Your mother's a Jew, but your father's
Oh, your mother's Jewish? No, well, that depends. If your mother's Jewish and from, then she would go first, because she has. But if she's Jewish and not from, then your father would go first, because then he's more in sync with what he's supposed to be doing than she is. Okay, so so I think that my Babatisha answer, which is not necessarily a good answer, because perhaps there is a Lumdish answer, is that Chachamim needed to give you a way to determine who goes first.
Therefore?
So they said if they both ask at the same time, then go to your father, because he has a higher level kibbut. Now turn that into a more Lumdish answer. Okay, you ready?
I could give you a Josh answer.
But I'm going to give you a Lumdish answer, which is the fact that she's mechuyev to give him covenant doesn't mean that that's why we're skipping over her. It means rather that his covenant is of a higher nature. And just like you mechabed Hashem before your father, you mechabed the father before the mother.
Meaning, the fact that the mother has an extra obligation shows that they're not in the same.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
It's not the cause, but it's a symptom, a manifestation.
Okay.
Okay? Any other questions for tonight? No? Okay.
Oh, but,